In this video, I'm going to go over my origins and my beginnings in Warhammer, how I was motivated to get into the hobby, and how the hobby progressed for me throughout the last 6 years of my life, and the way it's changed both with my friendships and the way it changed for me to interact on social media with you all as well. So I hope you enjoy. Hey guys, Cadian Sarge is still here, and I'm deciding to do an origin video. How did I get into Warhammer 40k, and how did I really get started into the hobby? So first things first, a little bit about me and a background. Primarily, I am an RPG player. I have played Dungeons and Dragons since I was very young, and played with my cousins and friends growing up. And have been a dungeon master for nearly 20 years now, with a small break in there towards the end of college. So that's a lot of my gaming background. And on top of that, playing card games and video games. Even with video games, it was largely RPGs, the Final Fantasy series, and so forth. And that's where a lot of my gaming experiences come from. I didn't get into Warhammer until much later in life. And it's really interesting when that happens. So, back in 2014, I am in college at the time. I just started going back, and I was living with some of my friends in a city in north central West Virginia, and we had been talking about various games to play. A lot of stuff was going on in the gaming community at the time, including X-Wing and other games, and we were playing those and interested in that. So only a little bit of time would go by before another one of our friends would come home from the military and would pitch to us about playing Warhammer 40,000. He's showing us all the armies. They were all in our living room at the time. It was me, my friend Derek, who's actually my cousin, and my friend MJ, all living in the same house together. Our friends also living in the garage apartment next door to us, and others coming to visit quite frequently. A very tight-knit group of friends there. And we're all sitting in the living room, right? And he's showing us pictures of these armies. We're kind of browsing on the internet. And he's like, oh, look at this. And oh, look at this army. And remember everybody kind of being interested in different things. Derek at the time, which some of you may know him as at Lively Minis on Instagram and YouTube. He had gotten into Tau, and another friend had gotten into Dark Eldar, another friend got into Space Wolves, and so forth. And I was a bit of a holdout on it. I wasn't really interested in the Space Marines. I wasn't much of a sci-fi person. I didn't do sci-fi stuff. It wasn't for me. And I had all done fantasy style role-playing and fantasy style gaming. So finally, I was shown the Astra Militarum, the Imperial Guard, actually still at the time, I think. And it clicked. It finally clicked with me. I saw the Cadians and went, yes. In the 41st millennium, in humanity's darkest hour, I want to play the average person. That's who I want. Like, that's who I found interesting. I was like, wait a minute. So you're telling me with like super space orcs and super space elves and necrons and all these other scary, horrible things and demons and all that, the average human still stands up. Like, we have superhumans who fight for humanity, but the regular people still do it too? Like, so it was wild. I'm like, okay, they die by the millions, and they still have artillery and tanks, and it seemed asinine compared to what else was going on, the scale of the game. And I was like, okay. And in context, I was in the army at the time, and so I was like, okay, cool. I like the army. I'm in it, obviously. So, and this is the army, and this looks cool. Okay, I'll play this, and bought into the game. So this is, at the time, 2014. That is the launch of 7th edition. Several folks in the group had bought into the Dark Vengeance box set, which had the Dark Angels and the Chaos Forces, and oh my gosh, it was a wonderful starter set. And they bought in with that, but at the time there were some Battle Forces too, but I really couldn't couldn't quite afford a battle force, so instead I just had to buy individual units. And I remember starting out with things like the Chimera. I loved the transport, and back then it had like amphibious movement rules. It could go through bodies of water. You could shoot out of the top hatch and all kinds of wonky fun stuff. So I had Chimeras, I had lots of infantry, I had Lehman Russes, and I slowly built up my forces. I got some Scions, didn't use them very well. Also, totally misunderstood the rules because I was mostly a role-playing gamer, right? So I remember one instance of me misunderstanding the rules, the heavily convoluted, complicated rules of the 7th edition, was because I had read a bit of the narrative about the Taurox Prime, and that it had these grav treads, right? It could basically drive up surfaces it shouldn't be able to drive up and things like that. And so for some reason, my narrative mind interpreted that to mean, oh, I can drive up and drive on top of buildings. Well, duh. It says right there in the rulebook that I got special grav treads, and I can drive up any terrain and topography. And much to Derek and our friend Daniel's dismay, they were like, "We don't think you can actually do that." And it, squinted and stared at me, and I'm like, "I swear I can." Game ended, and I looked it up and was like, "Oh, well, So learning the game was a lot. Learning how to paint. Oh, I was a terrible painter. I'm not going to lie. I joke still that my paint was so thick on my Chimera, especially, that the glue wasn't holding it together. It was just the paint. I even proved it to people by taking the Chimera and dropping it on a concrete floor, and it just bounced. I wasn't a very good painter. And going home to the house, and Daniel and Derek and everybody being like, "Shay, you need to thin your paints. You really need to thin your paints." And I never... Took me a long time to learn that lesson. So I continued to learn to paint, though. And we basically did back then a 1 hour a night deal, especially because I was very busy with college. All of us were at the time. So we'd be coming home to the dining room table and all hanging out together and painting for an hour, painting up in the bedroom. And it got an interesting picture here of I was at the time, I didn't have much equipment, just starting out in the hobby. So I was painting on top of a plastic tote lid. And that was my painting surface where I could keep everything together and then move it around the house so I could paint on in the living room, dining room, bedroom, so forth. Didn't have the hobby table like I do now or any of the other cool stuff. Started out small. Started out quite humble in the hobby. So that goes on for a while. And basically we had our small clique of garage hammer kind of family there. And it was really wonderful times. But we struggled to learn the rules. 7th edition was not a... new gamer-friendly rule set, I gotta say. We had a lot of arguments. We would even, not arguments really, but a lot of debates. We would spend a lot of time sifting through that rule book and all the universal special rules and all the codexes and all the supplements and trying to figure out how everything interacted. And guys, I don't miss it. I gotta lie, I don't miss it. Sorry. Which is why I've never gotten into Heresy, which I hear on its own is actually great, but just 7th edition and 40k was where it was just too convoluted. So kept playing for a while, and then eventually I would move from the city I was in to Morgantown, West Virginia, to the north, and gotten into another gaming group to a bit. So I met the folks up there at a store called Four Horsemen and started playing. Now I was intimidated at first, right? I was only a garage hammer player for my first 2 years of Warhammer. So I wasn't sure about tournaments, right? And I kind of had this presupposition that tournaments were for the win at all costs, cutthroat players, and there was no fun in it. And I was wrong. Man, was I wrong. And some great people up there that I met at that hobby shop kind of pulled me in and showed me that. But before that really happened, I actually just finally signed up for a tournament. I was like, fine, I'll go play a tournament. I'm dying to play Warhammer. I live in this new city. I'm not next to all my friends all the time, so I'll sign up for a tournament. And I did. And I tried to get some of my other friends to do it. I think they came up and visited, but they didn't really play in the tournament. And I won't forget, still a longtime friend was actually a second match of mine. My first match was against Space Wolves. And I got to the table and I was super excited. And I was like, hey, look at my army. Look at it. Look at I got a Chimera and I got a Lehman Rust and I got all this infantry. And the guy's like, yeah, it's cool, man. It's cool, man. So here's my list. I got Thunderwolf Cav. I got this and that. I got Wolfen. Wolfen were out at the time. And he's like, so you know what my list does? I'm like, yeah, like runs forward, fights me. And he's like, yeah, cool. He like tabled me turn 2, I think. It was pretty brutal. But I had fun. I had a lot of fun doing it. And then round 2, I played against a good friend named Shawn, from Pennsylvania. And Shawn also, I think at the time, pretty sure, I got a bad memory, by the way, fans, in case you don't know this. He had Space Wolves also. So, my second match is also Space Wolves. But I was still excited, new player, and he had a totally different army from the other guy. Complete different build. And Shawn and I played against each other, and I had a blast. The game went much longer. I still lost, but it was a much closer game, and we had a great time. And Shawn ended up being part of a circle I would get into later. Third game, I don't quite remember who I played. I lost all 3 games. And my very first tournament, I got the Toughest Time Award, the wooden spoon. Have you? So, but I had a lot of fun. Oh my God, I had a lot of fun. And I met all these people, and 2 specifically, aside from Shawn, who I've already mentioned, I also met Jerry Toppins, and also met another good friend, John Williams. And that would be part of the circle I would come to start playing with. And they were just fantastic. And I was talking to them about how to play, how can I play better, because I also don't want to be the guy everybody rolls over. That's not a fun game either. If you're the guy that everybody instantly beats, it's not fun for either side necessarily. I mean, I guess if you're really into that, if you're into like winning turn 1, turn 2, and that rocks your socks, whatever. So I decided to focus on becoming a better painter, right? I'm this narrative person. Maybe I can get into the art side of it. I'm also at the time in architecture school, or really I think I was in architecture school at the time, and finishing that up, and I was very much more into design and so forth. So I was like, well, you know what? I'm not bad at painting. But by then I got a lot better. I thinned my paints. And I decided to focus on painting. And it wasn't long after that I would go and visit Adepticon. I kept hearing about Adepticon and how great that was. And I didn't really sign up for anything. My first Adepticon was 2017. So skip forward, now it's 2017. And I've made all these new Warhammer friends in the city of Morgantown. And I drive to Chicago, to Schaumburg, Illinois, and I go to Adepticon. And my mind is blown. Wow. Just the stuff I saw. The most impressive thing, besides the beautiful armies, especially for the team tournament, but the most impressive thing that I saw was the Apocalypse games in the back corner of the hall, and seeing titans and gigantic walls and huge armies and bane blades everywhere and flyers everywhere. One of the reasons I got into the Astra Militarum from the start was because I saw the Apocalypse photos. Apocalypse as a rule set had already been out by the time I started 7th edition, and because it came out in a previous edition of the game, and I was like, okay, that's really cool. That's what I want to do. I want to build up an army. So I had been buying into Warhammer pretty heavily to build up to an Apocalypse size force. And when I saw how other people played Apocalypse, I was sold. I was done. This was the game for me from here on out. Like, besides D&D. D&D is still my game. Focus, say. So I go to Adepticon. It changes the world for me. I buy... 7th edition is still happening at this point in time. I buy some templates, some cool custom templates. And this is a bit of a funny thing about the hobby, because immediately after I buy those templates, I think I went home, and I think it was like April or May, Games Workshop announces 8th edition. No more templates. I never got to use them. I bought these cool, nice, like custom Astra Militarum templates. I never even played with them. So anyways, 8th edition drops. And now I'm in this clique in Morgantown, and I'm playing with all those guys, and I'm getting better at painting. But also, just before this, I've started my Instagram. And so I'm just my very first photo. You can see there, very humble beginnings. And I started playing in Morgantown, and I started playing with all these wonderful guys there. Just some of the best games I've ever played. And we're getting into it now. When 8th edition launched, I had nearly quit the hobby. I'd nearly quit Warhammer. And the reason being, although I was like sold on the apocalypse and all this other stuff, what was also happening at the same time was I was getting frustrated. I was getting frustrated because of the rules, the 7th edition, actually. That's what was making it hard for me. And I basically had gone through all of 7th edition losing every game. Every game. I almost never won. I knew when I played, I was playing for the story, the explosions, the running, the trench clearing. That's what I was playing for. Including, I remember great moments like towards during 7th edition, a Tau stealth suit punching my Leman Russ in the tailpipe and defeating it. I kept trying to do like tank shock, the old tank shock 7th edition rules, and just couldn't get the stealth suit. And the stealth suit ended up beating me in melee combat. Anyhow, so there were things like that, but also the tournaments. I still wasn't really having fun. The game wasn't clicking for me. I did realize you basically had to build to a meta list, or you had no chance of ever getting anywhere in a tournament. And that was frustrating, right? I wanted to be able to take the less than perfectly optimized list and still do average. That's cool with me. But that wasn't happening. And I finally even bought into Age of Sigmar, had already come out, and I played one game, loved it. Wow, it was a ton of fun. Me and some of the friends of Morgantown had done it together. They announced 8th edition, and we kind of got the preliminary rules, and then I never touched Age of Sigmar again. So 8th drops, though. 8th edition drops, and I start playing, and the game was a bit bland at first. We all know that now. When it was index only 40k, the game was balanced, but it was bland. You know, Tzeentch didn't have all their psychic powers, Guard didn't quite have all their orders, Space Marine chapters didn't really feel that different from one another. But codexes dropped soon, and then everything started to like flesh out. And there was hard power imbalance between codex versus index, but we all remember the history of that, and Games Workshop did the best they could to release everything as quickly as possible. So, but playing with this group, I made some wonderful friends. Absolutely amazing friends, and I still miss playing with those guys this day. I don't live there anymore. So, and those are some of the best friendships I had made, other than the ones from my childhood. And what amazing games, too. Oh my God, the beautiful armies we fought against each other, and all the great battles that we waged. And it didn't matter if I won or lost. They were all fun. But then I did start winning, though. I think we all also remember in early 8th edition, Guard were a little stronger. They were an early codex, and they were good. Hence the conscripts nerf, the commissar nerf, the again conscripts nerf, the again commissar nerf, the again commissar nerf, and then finally some big points adjustments. And it was fair. It was fair, but also I felt like it was justice done after 7th edition and experiencing that. But it taught me a lot about wargaming. It taught me a lot about gaming with other people too. I can say that. And it taught me how to be a better gamer. Both of those experiences, losing all the time and then suddenly winning all the time and having a really powerful gunline army. But also, it was nice because I got to start out with everybody else on an even playing field and learn the rules together. And I was able to become a really good strategist early on in 8th edition. But I want to go back to the hobby, right? Aside from gameplay, hobby. Also in 2017, I do my very first Armies on Parade. So here's a picture of that. And it was a great board in which it was kind of a river crossing, and I had a couple chimeras, I had a hellhound, I had some infantry, and I kind of also painted up some chaos models to be like infiltrating into the Cadian river crossing and to get ready to like secretly attack them and so forth. And this is my first time I ever felt confident enough to try to win an award for painting. My models were decent. They were definitely not bad at all. Not at the quality level I paint at now. And I was glad I did it. Did I win awards? Yeah, but not like first, second, or third place. I won. I won Best Theme Display and the First Army Award. Because technically, Astra Militarum has been my first army the whole time. I've solely been dedicated to them for almost all of my 40k playtime. So I do that, and I don't do too bad. What comes after this is then in 2018, I started doing Instagram a bit more because I'm starting to post like the Armies on Parade stuff, and people are starting to comment with me. So 2018 comes around. I go back to Adepticon. I participate this time. I do the Apocalypse game. Here's an awesome photo of that. And me standing with a little bit of my army, you can see there in the background, and then but a giant Warlord Titan and so forth. Holy cow, was that an amazing time. I got smashed to oblivion, but it was so much fun. And just as a side story, real quick, because it's worth telling, while at Adepticon 2018, and I had my Cadian army there, I ended up getting paired up against another Cadian player, or Astromilitarum player in general. And we were faced off against each other, and we both had super heavies and this and that. But I brought a lot more infantry and small artillery units, whereas most of the people had Lords of War. Which is good for me. I was able to actually control my table quarter because of that. But here's the best part of that story. So there was a father and son team there, Adepticon 2018. And they had these kit-bashed, homemade Nurgle Titans. Wow. Just beautiful, amazing models. And I remember the son running up to me, and he points down at my model. That night in the hotel the night before, I'd finished painting a Shadow Sword. And he comes running up to me, and he points at the Shadow Sword. And he goes, "Hey, is that your Shadow Sword?" And I went, "Yeah, man." And I thought he wanted to talk about the paint job on it or something, right? I was real proud of it. And I was like, yeah, it's my Shadow Sword. He goes, "Okay," and he runs away. It's like, well, that was weird. He comes back with a big tray of dice, and he goes, "Okay, so you see that Warlord Titan over there, the Nurgle one?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, I'm going to fire my blah, blah, blah at it." I'm like, "What?" I couldn't be upset. Kid was like, I don't know, 12 or something. Young kid, and he starts rolling dice. And one-shots my Shadow Sword. It's gone. It explodes. It does mortal wounds, I think, to everything around it. And he runs off. And I can see his dad standing there, kind of proud. And, kids having a ton of fun playing. I hadn't even got to fire the Shadow Sword yet. It hadn't done anything, and it was already dead. He ends up coming back over with another tray of dice. And then wants to shoot another one of my units, and I begged and pleaded with him not to. I'm like, "Please, man, go shoot somebody else. Please, go shoot this guy's army. Go shoot that. Don't you want to shoot that unit over there?" Kid's like, "Nah, I want to shoot I think it was a Stormlord or a Baneblade I had. I had all 3 Lords of War on the table." And he's like, "No, I want to shoot that." He didn't kill it. Thank God. He nearly did. Brought it down to like 4 wounds or something. Just run it off. But man, what a time. And it was like those experiences that really have made the game magical and wonderful for me. They give me good laughs, and we all have a great time playing, regardless of who's winning or losing. It doesn't matter. It was so cool to see this Nurgle Titan just blow my Lords of War away off the table. And then I had to like scramble around with like Wyverns and Basilisks and infantry units to win the game. By the way, my side lost, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure we lost that year. Anyhow. I continued doing, improving my painting, though. That's really what I was focusing on. I was focusing on the hobby side. I got a desk to paint on within that last year, and then I really started doing Instagram more. And I made another really amazing friendship with this. That is Cadian Shock, as you all know him on Instagram or the internet. He runs the Cadian Shock blog. And during about this same period of time, I have started developing my friendship with Jake from Cadian Shock. And that's another one of those amazing friendships I've gotten out of this hobby. And even wrote some articles for Jake early on in 8th edition, especially around artillery. I love artillery, so I wrote him some artillery articles, and we just had a ton of fun. And that's wonderful. And it also got me to do more on Instagram. We talk mostly via Instagram, Jake and I. And I think he reached out to me first, actually. I think he sent me a message asking me to proofread something. I was already reading his blog, in case he didn't know, but he had sent me something, I read it, and that's how we started that friendship. But it got me into Instagram more, and I focused on the painting more and the hobbying more, but my account really wasn't taking off. I was doing it for me, and the focus was to challenge myself. So I was looking at other accounts and following accounts that I thought were higher quality painting than me. And I was looking to see what they were doing, techniques and paint, color theory, anything I could learn from them. And I was really focusing on that. And that included Cadian Shock's account and looking at those. So I was really doing the Instagram to improve. It's still the point of it. It's to improve. I always see where I'm at and what I'm doing and how I can get better. And I continue on, and I don't really break through on Instagram until about 2018. And I start getting posts that finally are picking up some traction. And I started really gaining some followers. But interesting about that, I really don't take off still on Instagram until the very end of 2018. And it's this photo here. I posted a picture of these models that were works in progress. So with this photo, I had painted a flamer and a guy throwing a grenade while holding his las rifle and so forth. And I just didn't realize, I guess it had a quality level to it that people really appreciated. And it just got it was multiple hundreds of likes, and I was floored. I had no idea that people would like it so much. And it was shortly after, it was kind of the winter of early 2019, January, that suddenly my posts started really gaining traction. I was being featured in the hashtags at the top of the hashtag list. Like if you followed Astra Militarum or Warhammer, then my stuff was kind of popping up. And I started gaining followers and getting more likes, and people really started paying attention to my content, which I didn't actually expect to happen, by the way. Like I said, I came to Instagram to improve myself, to focus on my painting and my skills, and I didn't realize anybody would want to look at my stuff and also be inspired. And I've been very humbled by that you all follow my content, that you look at my pictures, that you're interested in my army and my games and the things that I'm doing. And it's just amazing to me as a minor content creator, but mostly an Instagrammer, right? I'm still into just mostly the hobby. I do mostly just Instagram. I take photos and I paint and talk about what I'm doing. And that's been amazing. And it was not long after that I end up moving away from Morgantown, and I come down to get a job in another city down south. And when I did, I'd taken another picture during a game, seen here. And this one's looking down the line of my troops. And it just went viral. But by viral, I mean it got like a couple thousand likes to me, right? That's pretty huge for me. That was amazing. And my followers just went through the roof. I went from like a few hundred to a few thousand. I won't forget, like, I think on, New Year's, I'd set some hobbies goals of, like, getting to, like, a few hundred followers. And I shattered that in January alone, and then got a few thousand, a few more thousand, and where I'm at now, which is around a little over 6,000 followers on Instagram. Not bad for a small account. And I'm not like a heavy metal painter, right? I'm not a golden demon painter. It's not my dig either, because I don't want to spend that much time on a model. I do paint to play, but I want to paint well, because I want to be able to talk about what we have in front of us while we play. But I don't want to be worried about doing a minor nick or scratch either while we play, maybe. So that's just been amazing that you all end up liking that content. You end up following my stuff, and I've been working hard to make sure that I try to keep that up for you all as well. And thank you. I actually want to go ahead and take this moment of my origin story, because I'm getting mostly to the end now, because we're pretty much caught up. That's 2020 and that was 2019. And I want to say thank you. You all have reached out and say, wow, you've inspired me to start an army. What do you recommend for a starter force? How do you paint this? What do you think about this unit? And I love talking with you all. And I love that you all have found interest in the pictures I post and the other things that I've done. And so truly, thank you guys. I'm now at this point not doing Instagram for my own improvement anymore. I'm also doing it for you guys. And I'm doing it to inspire you and to hopefully bring you joy and some interest in your day. The world is a gray place, and so it's not always wonderful. And I hope that my posts and the work that I do can bring you all joy and entertainment as well. And it's a wonderful hobby, it's absolutely wonderful hobby in the grim, dark future, the 41st millennium, where there is only war. So that's my origin. It's kind of where I came from. You guys have seen where I've been at, and you guys have even seen like full photo sets and videos of my army at this point. It's pretty big. No, I don't know how many points. I'm afraid to count. But it's pretty big. I'm going to guess probably around 10,000, but I'm not going to count it. Sorry, guys. Until somebody challenges me to an Apocalypse game that big that's feasible where I can actually meet up with them to play, I'm not going to count the points. But yeah, that's where I started. This humble Dungeons & Dragons player getting pulled into the sci-fi tabletop world by his friends, and now I'm here. Now I'm on YouTube, now I'm on Instagram, and sharing my hobby love with all of you guys. So thank you all very much, and I look forward to doing more videos in the future. Let me know what you guys might be interested in. Leave it in the comments or message me on Instagram. Just let me know. Let me know what you guys think. But, alright, stay safe out there and be well, everybody. And Cadian stands.